Okay, everybody, welcome back to Elite Raceway Season 6. We are here tonight with our Tier 2 group, ready to kick off round 6 out of 12 here at Monza, Italy. After this, already halfway through the season, wow. But we had a really great race on Saturday. Our Tier 1 drivers taking on the Temple of Speed in the wet race. So feel free to catch that video on our channel. Make sure to give a like and comment to our commentators to make sure you give your appreciation. But yeah, 18 drivers on the grid today, possibly 19. Not exactly sure if our good friend Hulkenbro is going to wake up. But anyways, yes, we do still love to see a pretty much almost complete grid today. Three drivers here with us today. We do have three of them keeping the seats nice and warm as reserves, filling in for our full-time drivers who are absent today. And I'm just taking a quick look at the Discord chat. Sorry about that. But yeah, two of them actually waiting for a full-time seat to open up. So we do appreciate them remaining active and patient until one is available for them. But anyways, yeah, those reserves are Abu, who is currently in the Haas team for today. And we also have J.A. Holly in the Mercedes along with Garen Vitek in the Red Bull. So looking forward to seeing what they are able to do today. Garen Vitek, who was actually a driver last season, and if I'm not mistaken, a runner-up for the championship. So yeah, now reserving this season, we are definitely looking forward to seeing either how rusty he is or how how much practice he's put into throughout his break. But we do have our first retirement in the qualifying session. I believe that is Bozo, a little bit of a spin there in Sector 2, it appears. But we have a couple already actually out and onto their hot lap at the moment. I believe Untradeable Teammate possibly going to be our first driver. Actually, no, looks like... Actually, yeah, it looks like Untradeable Teammate is going to be one to watch. But yeah, anyways, regarding the championship, so Mahasne, who unfortunately just gave the notice that he wasn't able to participate today, yeah, still continues to hold the lead in the Drivers' Championship, gaining some big points last week in Australia after a great win. So holds a total of 173 points. And right before I go on to the next person, is also Untradeable Teammate putting in a 119.3, Exist as well, crossing the line. In second, and only 19 points behind, we do have YSL Buddha in the Williams team at the moment, currently putting in a hot lap as well. Buddha with a total of 154 points. Then 35 points behind, we have in third Sean with a total of 119 points. So pretty close battle, I think, especially with Mahasne not here today. Buddha and possibly Sean looking to really capitalize and put in some good points. Buddha putting in a 119.3, so 3/10 right down behind of Kyle. And meanwhile, in the Constructors' Championship, as I just take a quick look to see who else is... Ooh, Oliver Monster actually putting in a fastest lap at the moment, 118.9. I believe that's the first time I ever see Oliver Monster there in the top 3 at that. And I will have to say, really good awareness for those two drivers who actually stayed on the right side as Hafren attempts to put in a hot lap at the moment. But yes, anyways, regarding the constructors standing, so we do have the Williams Racing Team continuing their lead at the moment with a total of 187 points. Unfortunately, and Kimbrough not here at the moment. Not exactly sure, as I mentioned, if he'll wake up and join in. We are quite aware that he is in another side of the world. But at the moment, it seems like Buddha is going to be our driver to really try holding the fort for the Williams team. I did just notice Wilson West actually put in a 118.0, Hafernick's a 120. I did want to mention that I believe our weatherman Guardians mentioned it might be looking to be a dry to wet race. So if that's the case, it's going to be looking quite spicy. We do like to see a little bit of weather changing in these races, and especially see a chance to to see how the drivers adapt in said changing conditions. But anyways, yes, as we mentioned, the Williams Racing Team leading the championship in the constructors. In second, we actually have the Haas team. So both Mazda and Eingel not here today. So that is going to cost them mighty points if Buddha is able to finish up ahead. And in third, we do have. Actually, I did want to take a quick look at the total. So the Haas team. So the Haas team at the moment, as I mentioned, Williams 187 points. Haas team only 4 points behind, 183 points. And we do have the Alpines, 164 points. So Alpines, Sean and Guardians, keep that in mind. Some big points for today, and you could possibly be moving up in the constructor standings. But anyways, we do have Untitled going a tad bit wide, unfortunately invalidating right there. And I do believe... Oh, for a second I thought one of the drivers actually got disconnected. I guess not. Okay. So at the moment, Wilson Juez putting in a provisional pole at the moment with a 118.8. Oliver Monster in second, only a tenth behind. But we do have Hafernix, who's looking to improve. Right here, finishing up in Sector 2. And just taking a quick look at the Discord chat. Mini Tony, sorry about that. I did notice that you messaged me. Yeah, sorry. I usually try to give myself a couple seconds before I actually start the stream. Alrighty. But anyways, Hafernix actually putting in a purple second sector. And so Monza, a track where you want the speed on the straight. Has to be very careful here not to go wide. Takes that quite well. So Hafernix with a little bit of battery to use here is going to cross the line. Puts in a 120.0. Does improve by half a second, but looks like he's going to stay there in 12th. We do have Honeyburger, who appears to be... Actually, looks like he's backed out of that. And I do see a Game Boy saying, does wet weather influence Tier 2 too? Tier 1 is cursed with wet weather this season. I have noticed that quite often. I don't know what it is that J-Dog has. He tends to cast a little bit of rainy clouds over to the group. Unfortunately, I don't think we've really had wet races here in this group. I could be wrong. I believe we had one. But I would have to look back to see which race that was. But anyways, Kyle in here in Sector 2 putting a purple first sector. Looking to improve. How much can he improve? I do believe Buddha's right behind as well, trying to put in a fast lap. Already up by 2/10 there in Sector 1. So Kyle does have a car right in front of him, and that is going to unfortunately invalidate his lap. I do believe that was Garen Vitek, unaware of the Ferrari closing in right behind. So I already know Kyle's going to be mentioning that on the chat. As a reminder, qualifying, any impeding in qualifying, you could happily just submit a ticket regarding that. But anyways, Buddha appears to have invalidated, so unfortunately neither of them are going to be able to improve. MGZ actually does improve, puts himself in the top 5, actually getting pushed down a position. Untradeable teammate. Actually crossing the line, putting in a 119.0. And Abu going off into the gravel. So I will say that part of the track, very tricky to get it right. See, he does have a driver coming up behind him. I do believe that is, actually no, it looks like that's the Mercedes, but keeping an eye on Vroom, who appears to actually have just finished his lap time. And so only 2 drivers who have yet to put in a lap. That is Boza, who unfortunately retired from the session, I believe after a spin there in Sector 2. And Garen Vitek, who unfortunately was caught getting in the way of the Ferrari of Kyle there for a lap. Does have a driver in front of him. Hopefully, the driver in front of him is able to see Garen Vitek on time. Although it looks like it's going to be right in the straight. And Garen Vitek trying to catch a little bit of that slipstream from his teammate for today. And so Garen Vitek, who I mentioned was one of our top drivers last season, is going to cross the line and is going to put in a 118.7, holding a provisional pole there. And we do have Wilson Hues, who's currently on an outlap, so we'll take a look at him. Wilson Hues, who I've mentioned before, last season wasn't able to put in a top 10, I think only once, and did a phenomenal job at that. And has honestly really improved this season. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what he's able to put in for this race. Has definitely shown that he's been putting some time into practice. But just trying to take a look to see if anybody else is putting in a lap. We do have Abu, who in the lap prior was onto the gravel, but now putting in a lap. Does have the driver right in front of him, and the Mercedes doing well to get out of the way right there. Actually up by 3/10. And if he could catch up a little bit more, he could probably put himself in the 118s and possibly put himself up in the front 2 rows. But Abu going around the final corner. And is going to cross the line, puts in a 118.8, actually puts himself in the 2nd row. So really good lap time by Abu right there. We do have Wilson Quest, who I do believe is possibly on a banker lap. I don't think he's currently on his... We're actually probably doing well to manage his ERS, but... Just trying to take a look to see if anybody else is finishing up their lap time. We do have Honeyburger, who... Ooh! Honeyburger, who has... I was just gonna say, Honeyburger, who has been a tad bit unlucky these past races. I do think it's a connection issue. So that is... I don't know what that was, but... Alrighty then. Well, anyways. My god. Let's see. We do have Wilson Hues, who is finishing up. Actually, looks like no, he's gonna back out and go back into the pit lane. And we do have Buddha, who, as I mentioned, is currently 2nd in the Drivers' Championship, actually up 3/10 on his time. So that could probably really help him there. Actually putting in a purple 2nd sector. And so we only have less than 4 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. Anything could happen. We've seen position changes happening all the way to the last couple seconds of this group. We do have Buddha, who is going to actually go back into the pit lane. I am curious, considering he was actually up on his time, but I did actually notice that Honeyburger was disconnected. Yes, I mentioned Honeyburger, who last week got disqualified from the session. Actually, just within milliseconds of the lights going off for the start of the race, and so Honeyburger having gotten disqualified. Very unfortunate. I don't know. We could blame EA as well, but anyways, looks like we do have a couple of drivers who are currently putting in their lap time. Oliver Monster actually appears to have backed out of his lap. Hafernix, who I had actually just turned away from, unfortunately invalidating right there. We do have a couple of drivers actually appear to have invalidated, so not an easy track in terms of track limits. We have seen quite a number of penalties be accumulated in past seasons here in this track. But it looks like we do have at least one driver who's currently trying to put in a lap time. His teammate doing well to get off, and ooh, it looks like a little bit too well. Unfortunately, having a bit of a spin there, but we do appreciate Exist being aware of his surroundings and trying to not impact the drivers behind him. But anyways, as I mentioned earlier, we are here in the Temple of Speed at Monza, Italy for round six, halfway through the season already. And yeah, the circuit, 11 corners in total, composed of 7 right-handers and 4 left-handers, as we've seen throughout this qualifying session. And also features a total of 2 DRS zones. So one on the start-finish straight, where the detection is right here, where Jay Holly's passing through, right in the Parabolica. And the second DRS zone on the back half of the lap. So between, if I pronounce it right and if I remember well, I think it's Lesmo and Ascari. I could be wrong, but Jay Holly actually putting in a top 5 there. Puts in a 118.9, so really good lap time for the Mercedes there. His first time here in Tier 2, and looks like he's going to go off into the runoff. But yeah, as we've seen, there will be plenty of opportunity for overtakes, and we've seen quite a few already in Tier 1, so looking to see what this group is able to pull. But anyways, Abu, who is currently in Sector 2, saving up that battery, we'll be able to see here at the end of the sector what he's able to do in terms of improvement, and actually seems to be improved by 76 hundredths. And oh, taking a tad bit too much corner right there, and too much curve, and unfortunately invalidating. And so he does have does have a driver right behind who I believe that was Jay Holly, who had just finished up his lap time. But anyways, we do have the top 2 at the moment who appear to be putting in a hot lap. And we will be finishing up our qualifying session within these 3 minutes. So Wilson West and Garen Vitek. Looks like Garen Vitek is going to be the driver ahead. Here in Sector 2, we'll be able to see what he's able to do in terms of improvement. So Garen Vitek currently holding a provisional pole with the 118.7, and finishing up here in Sector 2 is actually up by a tenth. Has to make sure he avoids making the same mistake that we saw with Abu, and does really well to go through the corners. Wilson West right behind. Fortunately, not able to see what his delta is here, but Kyle actually putting in a provisional pole, 118.6. Garen Vitek, oof, and I do believe that appears to be a collision between between Garen Vitek and his teammate. And Wilson West unfortunately doesn't improve, but still maintains second row there for the first time, actually. So phenomenal lap time there for Wilson West. And that appears to be our starting grid for the group. So not exactly sure what happened between Garen Vitek and Vroom. Possible impeding, but I mean, considering Garen Vitek also impeded Kyle, I wouldn't even be complaining. But anyways, we're just waiting for all the drivers to get back into the pit lane or finishing up their laps. And ooh, I just saw Mahasna was attempting to join in. Unfortunately, yeah, we just finished Mahasna, so better pray to the F1 gods that that Buddha doesn't score a lot of points to close in that gap. Alrighty, so that is going to be our starting grid. We have Kyle starting on pole position, Garen Vitek sharing the front row right next to him, Wilson West in third, Buddha in fourth, Abu in fifth, J.A. Holly in sixth, Oliver Monster seventh, Untradeable Teammate eighth, Honeyburger ninth, MGZ in 10th. That is our top 10. From the rest, we have Oh Mama Shan, Gambler, Hafronix, Vroom, Guardians, Untitled, Exist, and Bozo. So that is going to be our starting grid. But unfortunately, I do believe that was Vroom who picked up the 5 grid penalty, so he is going to drop down to. I do believe that's already settled for 14th there. But anyways, yes, as I mentioned, our weatherman guardians gave us a little bit of a heads up in terms of the weather. Appears to possibly be a dry to wet race, as I mentioned earlier. So if that is the case, I'm extremely excited to see that happening. Although we do know how the game tends to be, hopefully their engineers are able to tell them exactly when it will be the perfect time to pit. But we have seen and heard how EA likes to likes to mess with them a little bit. But as we like to mention, we do have about 3 to 5 minutes break for the drivers to really settle in and make sure they secure their strategies, their setups. Um, I do see that is yes, so many. So many Tony asking. So we do have one driver here who tends to change his name every, I think, every month. I'll have to ask him about it if he has if that is just a little thing that he likes to do. Untrainable teammate who is known as Hood Beaver, also known as Moron One, also known as. He had a name before this one, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but anyways, he's had multiple names. So, so yes, untradeable teammate is Hood Beaver. If you guys have seen our standings on our Instagram, it is Hood Beaver, aka untradeable teammate, aka Moron One, aka 100 different names, a man of different faces. But anyways, if it is true that it is going to be raining later on into the race, I wouldn't be surprised, as I see now, if a lot of the drivers are going to opt for the hard compounds. Um, try hoping that a safety car doesn't really come out that early and just see if you can hold on to the hard compounds until the rain actually hits. But as I mentioned, it is a bit of a gambling game. So as we see, we already see quite a number of drivers who are opting for the hards. Untitled probably giving us a little bit of a toying with us a little bit with the soft tires, although we never know. Currently sitting in 15th, possibly looking to gain some positions and hope for that early safety car and try securing those gains. But anyways, just gonna take a quick look at the Discord chat. And as I like to remember before, or remind drivers before we head into the actual race, please be extra cautious in turn one. Tier one did a phenomenal job to, to take that corner. Let's please follow up on that. Uh, it is very limited visibility into that corner, especially with all the drivers so compressed together. So yeah, just make sure you give each other the space, and it's going to be a long race, 27 laps in total. So just survive that first lap. Don't be too desperate, and yeah, just hope for the best. We're looking forward to seeing what you guys are able to pull in. But anyways, they do have the ready up to start the race. We will be going. We'll be taking off that strategy race. As we like to remind drivers, please don't step away from the group, from the screen. We do have 3 to 5 minutes. We do have formation lap on in case somebody does step away. I did see. I think somebody went into the bathroom. Um, Exist mentioning he made it back on time. Yes, just remember, I mean, it is 18 minutes of qualifying. You could go to the bathroom during that time, especially if you're not putting in a lap time for those final seconds. So, yeah, I wouldn't risk it, especially considering we have seen instances where drivers have also, readied up early. So you don't want to be caught off guard. So just a little reminder, yeah, to not look away from your screen. But anyways, as we mentioned, we are going to have our formation lab. Looks like a couple of drivers have already switched strategy calls. So we do have Kyle, who is currently on the pole position, currently in the lead for the start of the race, holding on to hard compounds for the start. And we do have the five behind him on the medium tires. And a little bit, actually looks like a little bit of a split between hard compounds and mediums. Probably more hards from what I can count, but I'm not that good at math either. And I do apologize, Exist. I didn't see your message about you going to the bathroom. Oh, we do have Buddha who's rocking the new Williams livery for the game. I absolutely, I'm a little bit of a fan of the Williams, so I do like the little change here. But we will be putting in for these. Let's see the position changes. There we go. Alrighty, so all the drivers making sure to keep their tires warm. Well, giving me a little bit of a scare there. Alrighty, so we are waiting for the final drivers to catch up to the rest and set up on their grid. We do have Kyle in the lead, Garen Vitek holding second. Can't really see how they are angled, but I am pretty sure Garen Vitek is going to try making that attack on the inside. Wilson West, who I mentioned, is first time there in the front, or well, second row, but in the top 5 in qualifying. So I am curious to see how he does at the start of the race. But we do have 3 lights, 5 lights, 6 lights, and off they go. And Kyle with an actually really good start right there. It looks like we do have a couple position changes happening in the back. Kyle looking to defend the inside line. We do have a little bit of a 3 wide, it appears. Actually, no. Wilson West actually getting right ahead of the top 2. And a little bit of a contact right there. I do think that is Honeyburger who has spun out. But anyways, we do have Wilson West who has now taken the lead, getting past the front 2. Buddha trying to psych the inside line. Actually, no contact, but does psych out Kyle. And Kyle actually going off track there. And so in terms of position changes, looks like we also have a couple of positions happening in the back as well. Gambler actually up 5 positions. Omar Mashan up 3. I do see, a little bit of a wiggle right there for Gambler, and that is going to allow Omar Mashan to go for the attack. And looks like he's going to be able to secure that overtake right before the corner, and does so. And Gambler going a tad bit wide. Untitled picking up a 10-second penalty for corner cutting and gaining a position there. And so we do have Oliver Monster who has dropped down about 11 positions. I am curious to know what happened there, but very unfortunate for him. We do have now DRS enabled for this lap at the moment. Wilson West doing a great job to stay ahead, using those mediums to his advantage and going for the overtake on Kyle. Kyle with the hard compound is going to take a couple of laps to really kick in, but if no early safety car comes out, that will be helping him a lot in terms of the strategy call. And so it looks like we do have everybody less than a second within the top 7, and as well as from 9th all the way to the end, looks like it. So we are currently in lap 2 out of 27. We do have DRS enabled. Is anybody going to be able to make an attack yet? Looks like no, everybody's just following right behind each other. I do see yellow flags. That appears to be the kick Sauber of Bozo who's dropping down a position. So looks like it's not going to be a really good day for the kick Sauber team. I will say that. We do have a couple passes happening in the back as well. Hafren is getting the move done on Honeyburger. In the front row, we will be having DRS activated. So Kyle tailing right on the back of Wilson West. Is he going to be able to make the attack here before the corner? And looks like with the DRS and the battery is able to do so. So Kyle regaining that lead that he had lost in the first lap. And so Buddha, as I mentioned, currently second in the standings, just really has to make sure he's able to secure a podium finish, I think, if he wants to capitalize on Mahazne losing out on this race, not being present. It looks like we do have a little bit of a gap between Omar Shan and MGZ. Omar Shan over 2 seconds ahead of the McLaren. And I do see High RPM actually asking, where's his brother, Mahasnas? So you tell me. I thought you guys caught up with each other a lot. Yeah, no, Mahasnas saying he wasn't able to race today. I think he was going to show up late and showed up just right on time, right when the qualifying session was ending. So unfortunately, not able to partake in the race. But let's see, Kyle holding the fastest lap at 121.8. And we do have Hafrenix, who is tailing right on the back of Gambler. Gambler, who is actually out of the DRS of the McLaren up ahead. And, ooh, Gambler going a tad bit wide right there. And can Hafrenix make the move? And looks like he does. So Hafrenix moving up another position there and getting past the Ferrari. And we do have Omar Mashan also looking for the attack on Jay Holly. Exist picking up a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. And I do see we have quite a number of gaps closing in, so I will be trying to take a check catching all the action, but looks like in the back, Hafrenix actually still battling it out with Gambler, it appears. But Kyle has now managed to push out Wilson West from the DRS, so Buddha now on the attack of the on the Aston Martin. However, does have Garen Vitek right on his tail, so Buddha is gonna have to try looking to make that overtake on Wilson West as fast as he can to get that buffer. But we do have Buddha now here with the DRS and trying to use up that battery. Does have the DRS activated and is able to get the move done. Oh boy, we do have Garen Vitek right on the back of Wilson West. I will say my little nephew has oof, and that is Garen Vitek and Wilson West right when I was just picking on my little nephew. So I do have someone joining in on the commentary box. Yeah, contact between those two drivers. Unfortunately, I do believe Garen Vitek has picked up right end plate damage. Does have that right end plate missing. And so we do have Jay Holly, who is right on the back of the Red Bull and has gotten the overtake done. Now, Garen Vitek with Omar Mashan right behind him, putting in a little bit of pressure as well. Although it looks like Jay Holly a little bit slow there on the corner, and it looks like that's going to actually help Garen Vitek to regain the position. So Garen Vitek struggling a little bit right there, and unfortunately going a tad bit wide. We do have Omar Mashan, who's possibly looking to make a 2-for-1 special overtake. Does have the battery, and ooh, a little bit of contact right there, but I don't think any harm, no foul. And looks like Omar Mashan getting the two positions, getting the move done on Jay Holly and Garen Vitek. And ooh, looks like that is Garen Vitek, who, as we mentioned, does have that missing right end plate, and unfortunately not able to make the corner there, and just losing the positions. And so in terms of penalties, we do have, I did see Exist pick up a 3-second penalty. Garen Vitek now joining the penalty party. We do have Untitled with 10 seconds, Exist 13 seconds, and Garen Vitek 3 seconds. So that is definitely going to hurt them if considering how close the gaps are at the moment. Well, let's see. We do have Kyle, who is currently with a comfortable gap, 3 seconds ahead of Buddha. Garen Vitek picking up another 3 seconds now. So does have a total of 6 seconds at the moment. And so Buddha now with Wilson West right on the back of him. Also bringing along Abu. We do see a couple more drivers appearing as well. Mama Shan trying to catch up. And Garen Vita picking up a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, most likely going to retire, and yes, does retire from the session. So a very unlucky race for Garen Vitek, who was returning after a bit of a break as a reserve today. But looking back in the front row, so we do have Wilson West still trying to fight against Buddha. I might be getting my nephew into F1 then, because he is just staring at the screen quite amazed. Let's see, any... Ooh, looks like we do have Omar Mashan, who has had a little bit of an incident. I don't know if that had to do anything with another driver, but Omar Mashan losing two positions there to Jay Holly and MG. I do think he actually has end plate damage. We'll take a quicker look or closer look if if the game could give me a little bit of a better view. And looks like, yeah, so Omar Mashan actually missing his right end plate. I do see our my biggest fan, DRS Maestro. I am one of his biggest fans as well. Always giving him a little bit of support in Gnosis Division 2. Always happy to see him in our races on the live chat. But MGZ actually getting the overtake done on Jay Holly. So really good, clean overtake by the McLaren there. So MGZ, who actually got his first podium last week, managing to put himself in the top 5 at the moment. And so as I mentioned, Wilson West a little bit too wide right there. I think Abu's going to be catching up right there. But yeah, as I mentioned, it does look like it's going to be a dry to wet race from what our drivers told us. And from what it looks like, it does look quite cloudy. So I am curious to know when that rain is going to show up. And there's my nephew says hi back. He doesn't speak yet, but I am actually happy that he's quite calm just watching the cars go zoom. But anyways, looks like Buddha has managed to push out Wilson West from the DRS. So Buddha now over a second, 1.2 ahead of the Aston Martin. And just taking a look at to see if any of the other gaps are closing in. Looking at the penalties, we do have Untitled with the 13 now seconds. Halford X3 exists still with 13 seconds as well. We do have Honeyburger, who appears to be closing in on the back of Room. Turn 1, which is a very tricky section of the track, as we've seen with a couple of drivers. Very easy to lock up if you're not using the brake assist. But MGZ holding out with the hard compounds, does have the two runners right behind him with the medium. So pretty good position for the McLaren there. We do have Jay Holly, who does have the DRS. Looks like he's not going to be close enough to make any move yet. But we do have Abu, who appears to be closing in on the back of the Aston Martin of Wilson West. And let's see, just looking at the gaps closing in, Jay Holly does have the DRS right behind of the McLaren. Looks like he's not going to be close enough to make any movement yet. And Omar Mashan tailing right behind as well. So using these two up ahead to help him a tad bit in terms of the DRS pull ahead of the of Untradeable Teammate. Untradeable Teammate, who appears to be having a little bit of a lonely race at the moment, does have a 6-second gap ahead of Room, trying to catch up to the back of the Alpine. But we do like to see the battles happening in the front, in the mid-pack, and in the back as well. But so we do have Honeyburger, who is still following right behind the Room. I don't think Honeyburger has any damage. No, it doesn't look like it. Both of them with the equal hard compound strategy. But I think our closest battle at the moment might possibly be Jay Holly on the back of MGZ. So MGZ who's trying to hold out right in front of the Mercedes. And Abu, who appears to be following Wilson West into the pit lane. So both of these two drivers pulling the trigger and opting to switch out the tires. We do have MGZ and Omar Mashan who have now overtaken the two drivers in the pit lane. And we do have Honeyberg who's still trying to get that move done on the Red Bull of Vroom. Was quite close right there towards the end, and Vroom a little bit was struggling. Honeyberger tried reacting to that. So I do think he might be glitching a little bit. I could be wrong. Honeyberger who got disconnected in the race. Quite hard to tell from what's happening on the track, but yeah, very close overtake for Honeyberger there on Vroom. It looks like Untradeable Teammate trying to warm up those tires, tailing behind of Omar Shan. Has managed to catch up, as we mentioned before. Was trying to catch up. He did have a comfortable gap ahead of Vroom. But Untradeable Teammate now less than a second behind of the Alpine, who currently has the missing end plate. And so Untradeable Teammate, I am curious to see if Omar Mashan is going to choose to pit. Looks like up ahead we do have Buddha, who has lost the position to M. Ooh, struggling a tad bit right there. Oh my god. And I do see drops of rain, so that is going to make a difference here. Now, we do have a couple drivers who have stayed out. I do believe that might have been Buddha reacting to the drops of rain. Actually, no, Buddha switching over to the soft tires. We do have Vroom switching over to the intermediates. And yeah, I am very curious to see how and when these drivers are going to try adapting. I do think it is going to be quite a wet track in the next couple of seconds, considering these drops of rain on the camera. But like I mentioned in the start of the race, starting on hard compounds was probably the best bet if you were gonna try waiting it out and seeing if you could blast until the rain comes. So yeah, so pretty good strategy call, I think, for those who started on the hard compounds. Omar Mashan actually still doing really well to stay within the top group at the moment, even with the mediums. But Abu picking up a 3-second penalty now. It looks like we do have Kyle, who has currently pit, those behind him pitting as well. Oh, and we do have Buddha. I do think that may have actually been a mistake switching over to the soft tires. And so Buddha switching over to, or pitting now, has picked up a 10-second penalty, now switching over to the intermediate. So quite a big mistake right there for the Williams there. Buddha, who, as I mentioned, is second in the championship. Of course, our point system is all the way to the end, from first all the way to last. So as long as he finishes the race, he'll be getting points. However, yeah, that is going to be quite a costly mistake, I think, if it remains like this. DRS has been disabled. And we do have a couple of drivers who are currently still out. So we do have Exist actually picking up a 10-second penalty there for speeding in the pit lane. And the McLaren of Honeyberger, who is currently still on the dry tires, struggling quite a bit there, trying to keep the car straight on the track. And unfortunately, losing that position to his teammate does have a couple drivers on the intermediates behind him as well, so has to make sure he's able to keep the pace. And whew, and we had me a little bit worried right there, but looks like Honeyburger's gonna be opting to switch into the pits, switch out of those tires and into the pits. And I do see Exist mentioning it is quite of a struggle pitting in, I guess, in the rain, considering it's you gotta slow the car down even more than necessary. But I do want to take a quick look at the position changes. So at the moment, we actually do have Room currently up 13 positions. A really good race by Room, I will say. Um, We also have MGZ up 8 positions, Guardians up 8 positions. A really good climbs by these drivers. On Mamashan up 7, so it looks like those are our most drivers gained in terms of positions. And so we are currently on lap 14 out of 27. Looks like a lot of the gaps have opened up. We do have Jay Holly on the back of the Aston Martin of Wilson Hues. And Gambler right on the back of Untitled as well, who actually looks like he's going to be making the move quite early there. Gets it done quite too quick for me to really catch it. So Untitled and Gambler, a little bit of a battle between these two. Untitled does have the 3-second penalties. I do believe he served the 10 seconds in the pits. And we do have quite a number of drivers with the penalties. So Room with 10 seconds, Abu 3, Buddha 10, Hafernix Untitled 3, Exist 13 still. Alrighty, we do have the Mercedes of Jay Holly looking to make a move on the inside, choosing to back out. And Wilson West a little bit of a struggle there on the exit, but still going to maintain ahead of the Mercedes there. And Jay Holly looking for that move on the inside. Looks like no. I do see Hunterberger has just left the session, so I'll make sure to send him an invite right there. But Jay Holly looking for that opening on Wilson Hues. Looks like isn't going to be able to make it now, but especially with DRS disabled, the drivers are just going to have to purely rely on their pace and their speed to go for those overtakes. But yeah, Wilson was doing well to remain ahead of Jay Holly, and looks like Jay Holly does have now Buddha right behind him, and Holly going a little bit wide right there. Alrighty, but yes, Buddha now looking for the move on the inside of Jay Holly. Is he going to be able to make the move stick? Ooh, a little bit of contact between those two, but Buddha remaining ahead. A little bit of a struggle there on the exit. So the traction, as actually, if you're watching for the first time, these drivers race with no traction control enabled for this tier. So yeah, these drivers just very talented, trying to keep the car straight. Looks like we do have Untradeable Teammate who has now closed in on the back of MGZ, less than a second now. So 10 laps remaining, including this one. As I mentioned, I do like it when it turns from a dry race to a wet race. Even vice versa, it does make the race a little bit spicy, a little bit entertaining. But anyways, untradeable teammate trying to close in on the back of the McLaren there. I will say MGZ doing a phenomenal job today to possibly manage his car into the podium. Untradeable teammate as well. So both up quite a number of positions there. And it might actually looks like these two are going to be our closest gaps. We do have Jay Holly on the back of Buddha. However, Buddha did get that overtake done and does appear to be extending that gap. So now 1.2 seconds ahead of the Mercedes. And so, yeah, the gaps have quite opened up. Buddha now on the hunt for Wilson Hues, less than a second now. I think Hues might be struggling a tad bit in these track conditions. And Wilson Hues does have one lap younger tires, but looks like Buddha managing a little bit better than on the wet track. And Bozo now picking up a 10-second penalty for corner cutting. So that's going to have Bozo join in the penalty party. As I mentioned earlier in this race, we were going to be expecting a couple of penalties, track limit penalties here on this race. We have seen it before. We have seen it quite a number of times throughout our race groups. So, yeah, we'll just have to see how that impacts our drivers towards the end of the race. But, anyways, Buddha closing in on Wilson West. They do have a driver coming out of the pits. I do think that is the Mercedes of Exist, who is lapped and is ghosted. And we do have untradeable teammate as well, tailing on the back of the McLaren of MGZ, trying to get close enough to make a move. Ooh, and does manage to close in, but looks like he may have gotten a little bit surprised by by the braking there, and doesn't actually lose a lot of time, but definitely a missed chance right there. But anyways, we do have Buddha looking back, still closing in. So Buddha, as we mentioned, at the moment currently does have a 10-second penalty. And looks like Buddha looking to possibly make a move on the inside, choosing to back out. And Wilson was going a tad bit wide right there, and so Buddha using that to his advantage. Is he going to try making the move or be able to get the move done? A little bit of contact right there between the two drivers, but looks like Wilson West with possibly a much better straight line speed, trying to defend that position. But Buddha looking to make a move on the inside, does have the overlap, does manage to get ahead of, taking a little bit too much curve right there, but looks like Buddha going to remain ahead of Wilson Quest as of now, does have that 10-second penalty as we mentioned. And looks like MGZ has managed to push out untradeable teammate now over a second, and however, we do have Abu, who is tailing right on the back of Guardians. Wilson West now picking up a 3-second penalty at the moment. Does have Jay Holly within those 3 seconds. So I will say, Wilson West did a great job. I will say, with his qualifying session. I think the strategy call, as I mentioned, the hards were probably the best bet if the rain was going to come in. So Wilson West having to pit for a fresh set of slicks, and then having to pit another time for the intermediates. So definitely did cost him a little bit, that strategy call. But honestly, still a great race by Wilson West. I'll give him that. We do have Abu, who is tailing on the back of the Alpine of Guardians. And so we do have 7 laps remaining, including this one. Bozo picking up a 3-second penalty now. I do think that is a total of 13 seconds now. And so Buddha actually managing to push out Wilson West over more than a second and a half. So I am curious to know and find out later on who opted to prefer the. Or actually, did Honeyburger join in back? Actually, yeah, it looks like I can't remember if I sent him an invite. So I'll send him another invite. Uh, all right. Hopefully Honeyburger was able to join in back then. I don't think. Not exactly sure if I saw him, but anyways, Untitled picking up a 3-second penalty. We do have Abu possibly looking to make a move on the inside. Actually, looks like Guardian's a little bit slow there on the entrance, but Abu actually getting the overtake done. Guardians does have Abu, who's currently with a 3-second penalty. And looks like, yes, Honeyburger able to join in. I do apologize. I don't, I'm not exactly taking a quick look at my Discord chat. And I think a little bit difficult now with this game, considering the when players join and leave, it's has a different opacity. The um, the name is a little bit ghosted, so unlike before where it was clear to see the names. But anyways, looks like the gaps have opened up. Honeyburger, who has joined or possibly has joined back into his car, I believe, looking to get the overtake done on Gambler. And I do think, I do think that is Honeyburger in his car, but unless the AI is very smart to be using the battery, but. But anyways, looks like our closest battles at the moment are the McLaren of Honeyburger on the back of Gambler. We do have Untradeable Teammate who is still trying to hunt down the McLaren of MGZ. So we do have very few laps remaining. We are currently in lap 22 out of 27. Anything can happen towards the end of the race. So Kyle currently with a lead of 21 seconds, almost 22, and MG a little bit of a wiggle there on the exit, but looks like that's not going to really impact him that much. But Untradeable Teammate remaining right behind of the McLaren. I do see now Hafernix has actually managed to close in on the back of Jay Holly. Hafernix, who does have that 3-second penalty, but as we always like to mention, you never know when drivers can appeal those penalties. So fair game till the end of the race. I will say that. But Jay Holly in a really good position considering he does have Wilson West and Buddha up ahead with the penalties. And Jay Holly now, it looks like I may have commentators cursed him. Jay Holly taking a little bit too much of the corner and unfortunately picking up a 3-second penalty right there. Hafernix possibly looking to make the move on the outside. Looks like he is. Manages to get ahead, but Jay Holly trying to defend that position. Phenomenal camera view from EA. Finally, I will say that. But it looks like Jay Holly remaining ahead of Hafernix, but Hafernix trying to get that move done. Switching over to the right side of the track, and looks like gonna try remaining ahead. Jay Holly still trying to defend that position. A little bit of contact between the two drivers, but I will say it has been quite entertaining racing between these two for that lap. Ooh, Ooh, and Jay Holly struggling a tad bit, and it looks like that is going to allow Haffernix to go right through and gain the position. Haffernix, who I do want to give a little bit of a shout out, actually managed to get a his first podium, his first ever ERA podium last week in Australia with the no assist Division 2 group. Favorite group of mine, I will say. Very talented drivers who have stepped into to really try learning the no assist environment. But oh, and as that is being said, Jay Holly closing in too much to the back of Haffernix. A little bit of contact, but looks like that isn't going to really impact Haffernix's race, and so Haffernix is going to stay ahead and actually gains quite the gap ahead of the Mercedes, so 1.6 seconds ahead. We do have a couple of other gaps closing in as well. Buddha now on the back of Guardians. We do see a little bit of a dry line after a couple of laps finally, but Buddha actually looking to make a move on the inside and manages to get ahead. So Buddha now gaining the position up to 7th, as I mentioned, does have that 10-second penalty, so that will be costing him quite a bit from the looks of the intervals. But up ahead we do have Untradeable Teammate, who's still managing to stay right less than a second behind of the McLaren. So I will say both of them doing really well. Most likely able to solidify a podium finish for at the end of this race. Of course, I don't want to jinx them, but looking quite solid. But Exist picking up a 10-second penalty now, so a total of 23 seconds there. I do see him in Sector 1, I believe, cutting that first corner. And that may have actually been possibly getting out the way of other drivers, it appears. But anyways, Untradeable Teammate, can he make the move now? He's been tailing the back of the McLaren pretty much all race. And trying to close in, trying to use up all that battery. Does have to be careful here. It is a heavy braking zone, and so Untradeable, she's giving me a little bit of a heart attack. Untradeable Teammate attempting a move on the inside, and so MGZ remaining ahead. Okay, making me catch my breath. Hold my breath, actually. Oh my god. We do have Room, who appears to be giving Abu a little bit of a battle as well. We do have three laps remaining, including this one. Untradeable Teammates still on the back of the McLaren. Vroom on the back of the Haas, and also having Buddha now approaching behind him as well. But Untradeable Teammate, it's another opportunity to make the overtake. Looks like he's not going to use up that battery. He's going to choose to stay behind MGZ. And possibly to look into making an attack on the next upcoming lap. I will say it does look like it's raining a lot more than it was before. But MGZ on the outside, not able to do much against the attack of Untradeable Teammate. And so Untradeable Teammate now moving up to 2nd. I will say, I don't think I've seen Untradeable Teammate on a podium before. Especially on this season. I could be wrong, you could correct me afterwards. I know for a fact for this season he hasn't been on the podium, but if he's able to, then phenomenal job by him. But MGZ staying right behind of the Racing Bull. We do have Buddha now making the attack on Vroom. So Buddha, even with the 10-second penalty, really trying to gain as much positions or gain as much gap as he can from those behind them. So a little bit of a man on a mission, Buddha. But looks like a couple of the gaps have closed in, so Buddha still remaining on the back of Abu. Abu currently has that 6 seconds. Guardian's actually right behind both Buddha and Vroom, who both have the 10 seconds. So yeah, Guardians looking to really capitalize and try scoring some good points. As I mentioned, the Haas team unfortunately not here today. Alpine team currently sitting third in the constructor standings. Uh, so yeah, definitely a lot of points to really try gaining a position there on the standings for these two. But looks like untradeable teammate has managed to push out MGZ over 2 seconds now. And we do have Buddha now tailing right on the back of the Haas. And is he going to be able to make the move before the corner? Does have the battery to use and looks like is able to get the overtake done. So Buddha once again trying to get the overtake, and Abu actually going on the inside. And I think that might have been a little bit of a late opportunity there for Abu to try gaining the position, pushing Buddha a tad bit right there. But Buddha with another chance to possibly go for the overtake doesn't have the battery to really use up there. But I will say head down for all the drivers. You never know, anything can happen. And I do notice that Omar Mashan as well. Ooh. I think Abu was struggling a little bit right there. But anyways, Omar Mashan was closing in the gap a little bit. I do see Kyle has crossed the line for the win. But looking at between these two, I will say that that contact most likely slowing them down. So Guardians possibly looking to gain another position, but Buddha not close enough to make a move yet. And Guardians actually pick up a 3-second penalty there. But anyways, Buddha with a little bit of the battery, can he make the move at the end of this corner? And looks like he's gonna have to stay right behind of the Haas. I do see in the back as well Hafrenix, the two teammates having a little bit of a battle there. And so looks like Hafrenix is gonna get the upper hand. And as I mentioned, a couple of the that scared me a little bit. Uh, yeah, with those 10-second penalties, Buddha and Vroom losing out a little bit right there, dropping down a couple positions. We do have Honeyburger on the back of Untitled. Looks like not close enough to make any move yet. And anyways, with Untitled, with these 6 seconds of penalties, Honeyburger possibly looking for a P14. As we mentioned, we never know if the drivers can appeal their penalties. Just a big reminder, if you do, then just make sure you record your race director. That's all we ask. And so that is our race, it seems. And Guardians mentioning it's a true heartbreak that 3 second penalties tailing behind the drivers with the penalties. I do agree, that is a little bit gutting. But yeah, we'll go over our final grid. We have Kyle for the win, also picking up the extra 2 points for fastest lap, 121.8. Untradeable teammate in second. Phenomenal drive by the Racing Bull. As I mentioned, I do think this is his first podium for the season. Can't exactly remember if it's the first podium in the league. I do think he's done it before, but for this season, I don't think he has. So, anyways, big congratulations to him. MGZ, who this was his second race in the McLaren team, doing a really great job to carry another podium finish. I think this is his third race in total with us. And so that is our podium runners from fourth all the way to the end. We have Omar Shan, Abu, Hafrenix, Wilson Hues, Buddha, Vroom, Guardians. That is our top 10. Jay Holly, Gambler, Oliver Monster, Honeyburger, Untitled, Bozo, Exist, and our only DNF, which is Garen VTech. So, yeah, big congratulations to all these drivers. It was actually a pretty good race. As I mentioned, we do like a little bit of spice when it comes to the wet races. So, phenomenal driving by all of them. And yeah, after this, we do have a 2 week break. Thank God. We have a 2 week break. This is our last league race in Tier 2 for the year. We will be having Christmas and New Year's break, and then we'll be continuing on for the next year. So we'll be continuing for round 7 in Las Vegas. So yeah, big congratulations to all these drivers, to the podium runners. Really good racing. Um, Yeah, we'll be looking forward to seeing them back. And we do have our no assist Division 1 group in about an hour and 15. A group I love to watch, especially the Division 2. These two, yeah, those two divisions, talented drivers, honestly, managing able to take control of the full car and without any assist. But yeah, we'll be seeing them in a few, so make sure you give us a like and subscribe. We'll be going live. I believe me and possibly our division admin, Turtle Commander 7. So yeah, big congratulations to all these drivers, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.